This is the Ice Age, a world locked in cold for tens of thousands of years, where massive glaciers reshape the continents and survival is never guaranteed, where every breath drawn in the frozen air is a quiet act of resistance against extinction. At this time, the continents of Earth are unrecognizable compared to today. Sea levels are drastically lower, vast land bridges connect distant regions, and frozen plains stretch endlessly under a sky that offers no mercy. Life here exists in a constant state of pressure. As temperatures remain brutally low, food is scarce, and every species must adapt or vanish, leaving no room for weakness or hesitation. Gigantic animals dominate this frozen world. Their immense size, not a luxury but a necessity, allowing them to store heat, conserve energy, and withstand an environment that would quickly kill smaller creatures. Among these giants, competition is inevitable, because survival is not only about enduring the cold, but also about securing enough resources to live through long, unforgiving winters. Every migration, every confrontation, and every hunt is driven by a single purpose: the need to survive long enough to reproduce and ensure the continuation of a species in this harsh environment. Conflict is not fueled by aggression alone, but by hunger, exhaustion, and the relentless pressure of a world that never stops testing its inhabitants. Predators and prey are bound together in a fragile balance, where each death feeds another life, and every successful hunt determines whether a lineage continues or disappears forever. The Ice Age is not a place of heroes or villains, only participants in an ancient struggle shaped by climate, geography, and time. To understand why these animals fight, we must first understand the world they inhabit, a planet ruled by ice, wind, and scarcity rather than abundance. Across frozen valleys and open tundra, massive herbivores roam constantly, searching for buried vegetation beneath. Layers of snow and ice that grow thicker with each passing season. These animals are not wandering aimlessly, but following ancient migration routes carved by generations before them. Paths that lead to survival or death, depending on timing and weather. Food is the most valuable resource in the Ice Age, and access to it often determines which animals thrive and which slowly weaken and fall behind. Where herbivores gather, predators are never far away, patiently observing, conserving energy, and waiting for the moment when weakness reveals itself. For predators, attacking a giant animal is a dangerous gamble, as a single mistake can mean severe injury or death in a world with no recovery. Because of this risk, predators rely on strategy rather than strength alone, targeting the young, the old, or the exhausted rather than confronting full strength head-on. These calculated decisions are not signs of intelligence in the human sense, but the result of thousands of generations shaped by natural selection. In the Ice Age, those who choose wisely live longer, while those who misjudge a single moment often do not survive to try again. Every confrontation is therefore a test, not just of physical power, but of timing, coordination, and environmental awareness. The frozen landscape itself becomes a weapon, as ice, snow, and uneven terrain can decide the outcome of a battle without a single strike being exchanged. Rivers freeze over, creating deceptive surfaces that appear solid but can collapse without warning under immense weight. For large animals, crossing frozen water is a life-threatening risk, yet often unavoidable when migration routes demand it. Predators understand this danger well, sometimes using the environment to exhaust or trap prey rather than attacking directly. In these moments, the Ice Age reveals its true nature, showing that the environment itself is often the deadliest force of all. When a giant herbivore becomes trapped or weakened, it represents an enormous reward for predators, capable of feeding an entire pack for days. However, approaching such prey too early can result in injury. So predators often wait, allowing cold, fatigue, and fear to do most of the work. This is not cruelty, but efficiency, shaped by a world where wasting energy can be fatal as strength fades. Even the largest animals become vulnerable, their size turning from protection into a burden. The struggle is often silent, broken only by the sounds of wind, cracking ice, and labored breathing in the frozen air. Death in the Ice Age is rarely sudden, and survival is often decided long before the final moment arrives. For predators, the reward of a successful hunt is not dominance, but continuation. Another day of life secured through careful calculation. For herbivores, every escape reinforces behaviors that may allow their species to survive future encounters. This constant exchange shapes the evolution of both sides, driving physical and behavioral adaptations over thousands of years. Larger bodies, thicker fur, stronger limbs, and coordinated group behavior all emerge from this relentless pressure. The Ice Age does not favor fairness, only effectiveness, rewarding traits that work and eliminating those that fail. Even cooperation is a survival tool, as herds protect their young and packs rely on collective strength to overcome larger prey. Yet cooperation has limits, especially when food becomes scarce and competition increases within the same species in extreme conditions. Even members of the same species may be forced to compete for survival. This internal struggle further shapes behavior, reinforcing hierarchies and roles, essential for group survival. Every action taken in this frozen world carries consequences that extend far beyond the individual. The Ice Age is therefore a system, not a series of isolated events, where climate, geography, and biology are tightly interconnected. A single harsh winter can reshape populations, eliminating the weak and altering migration patterns for generations. Volcanic activity, shifting ice sheets, and changing sea levels constantly redefine the boundaries of life. Animals must respond not only to each other, but to a planet that is actively changing beneath their feet. In this world, adaptation is not optional, and those unable to adjust quickly are erased from history. The battles we witness are not acts of violence for dominance, but necessary conflicts driven by survival itself. Each struggle represents the cost of living in a world where resources are limited, and the margin for error is razor thin. Through these battles, ecosystems remain balanced, preventing any single species from overwhelming the environment. The Ice Age persists not because it is stable, but because life continuously adapts to its instability. And as long as the cold endures, the struggle for survival will continue, written into the frozen landscapes of prehistoric Earth. As the frozen world stretches onward, survival becomes a matter of endurance rather than speed, where lasting through the cold is often more important than winning a single confrontation. Across vast plains of ice and snow, animals are forced to move constantly, because staying in one place too long almost guarantees starvation. Migration is not a choice in the Ice Age, but a necessity imposed by a planet that never allows stability to last. Every step taken across the frozen land consumes precious energy, making each journey a careful calculation between risk and reward. For massive animals, size provides protection, but it also demands enormous amounts of food to sustain life through endless winters as herds move. They reshape the landscape itself, compressing snow, breaking ice, and carving temporary paths across the tundra. Predators follow these movements closely, not out of aggression, but because their survival depends entirely on the success or failure of others in this world. Patience is often more valuable than strength, as waiting for the right moment conserves energy and reduces risk. The cold punishes mistakes instantly, turning minor injuries into fatal weaknesses as healing becomes slow or impossible, even without direct conflict. Many animals fail simply because their bodies cannot withstand the relentless stress of the environment. Storms sweep across the Ice Age continents without warning, burying familiar roots and separating groups that may never reunite. Blizzards erase tracks, silence sound, and disorient even experienced animals, making survival a matter of instinct rather than planning. In these conditions, young animals face the greatest danger, as their smaller bodies lose heat rapidly and fatigue sets in quickly. Adults respond by forming tighter groups, using collective body heat and protection to increase the chances of survival. This cooperation is not emotional, but evolutionary, reinforced by generations that lived only because the group stayed together. Predators also adapt to these conditions, hunting less frequently but with greater precision when opportunities arise. Failed hunts carry serious consequences, as wasted energy may not be recovered for days or even weeks. Because of this, predators often abandon pursuit entirely when conditions are unfavorable, choosing survival over risk. Not every encounter ends in battle, and many potential conflicts dissolve without violence as both sides conserve strength. The Ice Age teaches restraint as much as aggression, shaping animals that know when not to fight. Across frozen rivers and cracked ice fields, the environment continues to decide outcomes without intent or emotion. Some animals fall not to predators, but to exhaustion, cold, or hidden dangers beneath the snow. Their remains do not go to waste, instead becoming vital resources that sustain other life in the ecosystem. Scavenging plays a critical role in this world, reducing waste and redistributing energy across species. Through this process, death becomes part of survival, linking every organism in a continuous cycle. The balance of life here is fragile, maintained only because no single species can dominate for long. Environmental shifts constantly disrupt this balance, forcing rapid adaptation or extinction. As glaciers advance or retreat, entire regions become uninhabitable, pushing animals into new and dangerous territories. These changes increase competition, bringing unfamiliar species into contact and creating new conflicts. Animals that adapt quickly gain temporary advantages, while others decline and disappear from the fossil record. Extinction is not sudden, but gradual, marked by fewer individuals, shorter migrations, and declining strength. The Ice Age leaves behind no memory of those who fail, only traces locked in ice and stone. Yet life continues, reshaped again and again, by pressure rather than progress. Even the most dominant animals exist only as long as conditions allow. As time passes, climates fluctuate, and the frozen world begins to change in subtle but powerful ways. Some species thrive briefly during these transitions, while others are pushed beyond their limits. The battles we witness are therefore moments within a much larger process, not isolated acts of survival. Each struggle contributes to the shaping of ecosystems that will endure long after individual lives end. The Ice Age is not defined by constant violence, but by constant challenge. Survival here demands resilience, adaptability, and an ability to endure prolonged hardship. Those that succeed do so not because they are strongest, but because they are best suited to the world as it exists. As conditions continue to shift, the ancient balance slowly transforms, preparing the stage for future eras. The frozen landscapes hold countless stories of struggle, written not in words, but in bones and ice. Long after the animals are gone, the land itself remembers their passage. Footprints freeze, paths vanish, and only the environment remains, unchanged by individual survival. The Ice Age world moves forward without pause, indifferent to success or failure. Life persists not because the world is kind, but because adaptation never stops. And within this frozen chapter of Earth's history, survival is the only story that truly matters.